Imagine walking into a courtroom like you own it, laughing at the judge to his face, believing your husband's billions make you untouchable. That's exactly what Victoria Ashford Sterling did, wife of tech billionaire Marcus Sterling. But what she didn't know, Judge Frank Caprio does not accept arrogance as currency, and the sentence you're about to witness isn't just punishment. It's the most humiliating reality check ever delivered in a courtroom. So if you've watched this far, don't blink. Because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. Backhand index pointing down. Before we begin, tell us in the comments. Should wealth ever influence justice? And if you believe no one is above the law, hit subscribe right now, because stories like this prove that sometimes justice really does win. It's a quiet Thursday morning at Providence Municipal Court. The wooden benches are filled with everyday people, tired workers, anxious defendants, families waiting on verdicts. The bailiff stands. State of Rhode Island versus Victoria Ashford Sterling. The room goes silent. The courtroom doors swing open, and in walks a woman who treats the courthouse like her private country club. Victoria is draped in a cream-colored Chanel suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent. On her arm, a Hermes Birkin bag worth over $50,000. Diamond Cartier bracelets sparkle under the harsh fluorescent lights with every lazy flick of her wrist. Her Valentino sunglasses stay on, even indoors. Behind her trails a young woman, mid-20s, her personal assistant, struggling to carry Victoria's coat, purse, and leather portfolio. Victoria doesn't even look at her. Not once. As Victoria struts toward the defendant's table, she answers her phone. No shame, no whispers. "Darling, I can't talk right now. I'm dealing with this ridiculous legal theater." People in the courtroom turn to look. "Just confirm with the caterer, I want the Belgian chocolate fountain, not the Swiss one." The Swiss one was absolutely pedestrian at the Harrisons' party. She laughs softly to herself. Ends the call. The courtroom is frozen. An elderly woman in the second row slowly shakes her head. A man in work clothes crosses his arms and mutters under his breath. Even the court reporter stops typing, staring in disbelief. At the bench sits Judge Frank Caprio, calm, dignified, observant. He's seen them all. The scared, the broken, the furious, the remorseful. But something about this woman's energy makes even his experienced eyes narrow slightly. Victoria sets her glowing phone face up on the table, as if court is merely an inconvenience. Her lawyer, Martin Whitmore, a polished but nervous man in an expensive suit, leans in urgently and whispers in her ear. She waves him off like he's an insect. Judge Caprio clears his throat. "Mrs. Ashford Sterling, welcome to my courtroom. Please silence your phone and give these proceedings your full attention." Victoria finally looks up, as if she's just now noticed him. She does not silence the phone. Instead, she smiles, a smile with no warmth at all. "Your Honor, is that what I call you?" Soft laughter ripples through her breath. "I'm sure we can resolve this quickly. What's the damage? 5,000. 10. She gestures lazily toward her assistant. "My assistant can wire it right now." The young woman behind her looks mortified. The courtroom is silent. Judge Caprio does not smile. And in that moment, Victoria Sterling still believes money will save her. The courtroom falls completely silent. Not the ordinary kind of quiet, but the kind that feels heavy, like the very air is holding its breath. Even the bailiff, a man who has seen every form of courtroom disrespect imaginable, raises his eyebrows. Judge Caprio's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. A sharpness. A line has just been crossed. Judge Caprio speaks, his voice slow, deliberate, controlled. "Mrs. Ashford Sterling, this is a court of law, not an auction house. You are not here to negotiate a transaction. You are here to answer to serious criminal charges." Victoria lets out a small laugh, soft, dismissive. The kind that says she finds the entire situation amusing and beneath her. With respect, Your Honor, I think you're making this far more complicated than it needs to be. She folds her arms calmly. My husband donates more to this city's infrastructure than this entire courthouse is worth. Surely we can approach this pragmatically. Whispers erupt across the room. A woman audibly gasps. A man in the back row mutters loud enough for several rows to hear. Did she just try to buy her way out? Judge Caprio raises one hand. Instant silence. His voice remains steady, but now there is steel beneath the calm. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, your husband's donations may be generous, but they do not purchase you immunity from the law. He pauses. Now let's proceed with why you're actually here. The bailiff steps forward, posture straight, voice official and unshaking. Mrs. Victoria Ashford Sterling, you are charged with the following. Count 1. Leaving the scene of an accident. Count 2. Failure to render aid. Count 3. Attempted obstruction of justice. Count 4. Intimidation of a witness. As each charge echoes through the courtroom, Victoria casually examines her designer manicure. She glances at her phone. Unbothered. Her attorney, Martin Whitmore, shifts uneasily beside her, already realizing his client is sinking herself with every second. Judge Caprio looks directly at her. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, do you understand these charges? Victoria exhales dramatically. I understand that a minor parking mishap is being blown wildly out of proportion. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly. A minor parking mishap. Is that truly how you describe it? Victoria shrugs, pure dismissiveness. I barely tapped another vehicle. These things happen in parking garages all the time. She smirks. Frankly, my car probably sustained more damage than theirs. My Range Rover is limited edition, you know. A wave of anger ripples through the gallery. Judge Caprio opens a folder on his bench. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, are you aware of who was driving the vehicle you barely tapped? Victoria waves her hand vaguely. Some delivery person, I think. I don't really remember. It all happened so fast. I was late for a very important charity luncheon. The irony crashes through the courtroom like thunder. Several people shake their heads in disbelief. Judge Caprio's voice turns firmer. The woman you hit was Maria Gonzalez. The room tightens. She is a 58-year-old hospice nurse. Victoria barely reacts, instead leaning toward her assistant and whispering something about rescheduling a spa appointment. Judge Caprio continues, patience thinning. She was driving a borrowed vehicle, rushing to reach a dying patient who had specifically requested her presence. Victoria finally looks up, just slightly. Miss Gonzalez suffered whiplash and bruised ribs from the impact, Judge Caprio says. She missed 3 days of unpaid work due to her injuries. The courtroom is silent again. The patient she was trying to reach passed away before another nurse could arrive. A wave of grief moves through the gallery. The borrowed van sustained $2,800 in damage. Victoria's lawyer swallows hard. And for the first time, the weight of reality begins to creep into the room. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through the tension. The owner of that van, a fellow nurse, cannot afford the repairs. She has now been without a vehicle for 2 full weeks. Victoria finally looks up, but her expression isn't concern. It's annoyance. Your Honor, that's unfortunate, truly. But that's literally what insurance is for. I don't understand why we're being so dramatic over a fender bender. She shifts her posture confidently. These situations resolve themselves through proper channels. I offered to handle it privately, but she refused to be reasonable. The word reasonable hangs in the air like an insult. Judge Caprio leans forward. Slow, controlled, dangerously calm. You offered to handle it privately. He pauses. Let's examine what that actually means. He turns to the bailiff. Bailiff, display the security footage from the East Gate parking structure. Timestamp, 11:42 a.m., Monday, April 15th. Every monitor in the courtroom flickers to life. The footage is grainy, black and white, but unmistakably clear. Victoria's white Range Rover reverses out of a parking space. Fast. Too fast. It slams violently into the side of a blue van. The impact rocks the van on its suspension. This is not a gentle tap. The Range Rover jerks to a stop. The driver's door opens. Victoria steps out. She walks directly to her own vehicle, not the van. She runs her hand along the scraped bumper. Even on blurry footage, her irritation is obvious. Then, the van door opens. Maria Gonzalez steps out slowly, one hand pressed to her ribs, her face twisted in pain. She approaches Victoria. No audio, but the body language is clear. She's hurt. She's asking for help. Victoria reaches into her designer handbag, pulls out a thick fold of cash, holds it out toward Maria. Maria shakes her head, steps back. Victoria steps forward, pushing the money toward her more aggressively. Maria shakes her head again, firmer now. She pulls out her phone. The moment Maria begins to dial, Victoria's demeanor shifts instantly. The cash disappears back into her purse. She turns sharply, gets back into her Range Rover. While Maria is clearly on the phone, likely with 911, Victoria drives away. No note. No waiting. No checking if the woman is alive. Just an injured nurse, standing alone, in a parking garage, holding her ribs in pain. The video ends. The monitors go dark. The silence that follows is deafening. No whispers. No gasps. Just shock. Judge Caprio slowly lifts his eyes to Victoria. Still think it was just a minor mishap, Mrs. Ashford Sterling? For the first time, Victoria shifts uncomfortably. Her confidence wavers. But only for a moment. She straightens. Her voice hardens defensively. Your Honor, that footage shows no context. I was late for an extremely important charity luncheon benefiting children's literacy. I sit on the board. My absence would have been noticed and honestly embarrassing for the organization. People in the gallery exchange stunned looks. I offered that woman a very generous cash settlement right on the spot. $5,000 in cash. Do you know how many people would jump at that opportunity? She shrugs. But she refused. She made it complicated. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. She made it complicated. By calling the police after being injured? His voice sharpens. That's not complicated, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. That's called following the law. Victoria opens her mouth to argue. Judge Caprio cuts her off. And speaking of the law, let's discuss what happened next. He turns to the bailiff. Bailiff, call our witness. The courtroom doors open. A man in a security uniform steps inside. Every eye in the room locks onto him. Victoria's jaw tightens. Her lawyer slowly exhales. The trap has been fully set. The courtroom doors creak open. A man in his mid-50s steps inside. His face is weathered. His eyes tired. The look of someone who's worked long shifts for decades, quietly keeping order while chaos passes through unnoticed. He approaches the stand. Is sworn in. The bailiff speaks. State your name for the record. The man straightens. Robert Chun, head of security at the East Gate parking structure. 12 years. Judge Caprio nods, studying him carefully. Mr. Chun, you were on duty the morning of April 15th when this incident occurred? Yes, Your Honor. I was. And you responded when the cameras flagged the collision? Yes, sir. Judge Caprio's tone sharpened slightly. Tell the court what you witnessed when you arrived. Robert Chin pulls a small notepad from his pocket. He doesn't need it. But the habit of precision is ingrained. I arrived approximately 3 minutes after impact. The injured party, Miss Gonzalez, was already on the phone with emergency services. He pauses. She was holding her side, clearly in pain. The courtroom listens in absolute silence. I approach to offer assistance and to gather information for our incident report. Judge Caprio gestures. Continue. Robert's gaze flicks briefly toward Victoria, then back to the judge. The driver who caused the accident had already left the scene. A ripple of quiet anger moves through the gallery. But Miss Gonzalez managed to photograph the license plate before the vehicle fled. I radioed the plate to our office and pulled the security footage immediately. Judge Caprio flips a page in his file. Mr. Chun, did you later have any interaction with Mrs. Ashford Sterling that day? Robert nods. Yes, Your Honor. Approximately 40 minutes later, she returned to the parking structure. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. I assumed she realized leaving the scene was a mistake. Judge Caprio leans forward. When she returned, what did she say to you? Robert exhales slowly. His jaw tightens. She approached my security desk and asked if anyone had filed a report. I informed her that yes, the injured party had spoken with police and that I had already provided them with the security footage. Judge Caprio's eyes sharpen. And how did she respond? Robert's voice steadies, but his eyes harden. She became extremely agitated. She told me I'd made a huge mistake. The courtroom stills. Then she said, and I wrote this down immediately because I knew it mattered. He looks directly at Victoria now. Do you know who my husband is? Marcus Sterling owns half this city. If you file that report, I'll have your job by morning. The courtroom explodes in murmurs. Victoria's face flushes red. She slams her hand on the table. That is a complete fabrication. He's lying for attention, or money, or whatever his angle is. Judge Caprio raises his hand calmly. The room silences instantly. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, you will have an opportunity to respond. He turns back to the witness. Mr. Chun, did anyone else witness this conversation? Yes, Your Honor. My colleague David Park was standing directly beside me at the security desk. He heard everything. The tension rises. We both documented it immediately in our incident report. A beat. And we also have audio from the security station. A visible shift moves through the courtroom. Victoria's lawyer pales. Judge Caprio's voice is calm, lethal. Play the audio. A brief crackle of static. Then Victoria's voice fills the courtroom. Crisp, unmistakable. You need to make that report disappear. Do you understand me? The gallery gasps. I offered that woman $5,000 cash to walk away. She refused, which was stupid on her part, but that's her problem. People shift uncomfortably. Now you're compiling evidence like you're some kind of detective. You're a parking attendant. A man in the gallery whispers, unbelievable. My husband's name is on buildings all over this city. One phone call from me, and you'll be looking for work tomorrow. The courtroom is frozen in shock. So I suggest you lose that footage. And forget this ever happened. A pause. Robert Chin's recorded voice responds, calm, steady. Ma'am, I can't do that. The report has already been filed with police. Victoria's recorded voice turns cold. Then you just ended your career over a fender bender. Congratulations on your principles. I hope they keep you warm when you're unemployed. Click. The audio ends. No one moves. No one breathes. Victoria sits frozen. Her billionaire armor has just shattered publicly. Judge Caprio slowly closes the folder in front of him. His voice is quiet, but it carries the weight of a verdict already forming. The courtroom is frozen. Victoria sits rigid, still pale, her hands gripping the table. Her designer handbag rests on the floor, forgotten. Judge Caprio leans forward, hands flat on the bench, eyes locked on her. Judge Caprio, calm, firm. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, do you have anything else to say before I issue my ruling? Victoria's lawyer whispers urgently. She glances at him, then back at the judge. Her voice wavers, but she tries to mask it with arrogance. Victoria, Your Honor, this is ridiculous. My husband, our foundation, this is just a misunderstanding. Surely, we can resolve this privately. Judge Caprio's expression doesn't flinch. Judge Caprio, misunderstanding, or deliberate disregard? Let's review the facts you've created. The bailiff steps forward, standing tall. The courtroom leans in, sensing what's coming. Judge Caprio slowly clears his throat. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, today you entered this courtroom with confidence in your wealth, in your power, and in your untouchable status. You laughed at this court. You attempted to bribe a victim. You threatened a man performing his duty. You fled the scene of an accident. And when confronted, you denied reality. This court cannot, and will not, bend to money, influence, or entitlement. Victoria's jaw tightens. Her nails dig into the table. Judge Caprio, continuing. You have proven that privilege does not equal responsibility. You have mocked the law and endangered others with your actions. Therefore, he pauses, letting the weight of the moment sink in. I find you in contempt of court, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. A collective gasp echoes through the gallery. Victoria opens her mouth to protest. Judge Caprio, firmly. Bailiff, take Mrs. Ashford Sterling into custody until she can demonstrate basic respect for this court. The bailiff approaches. Victoria's legs wobble. Victoria. No. You can't do this. I didn't mean anything. Her voice cracks. The first hint of fear shows through her polished facade. The handcuffs click. Designer bracelets scrape metal. Her Birkin bag drops to the floor. Sunglasses roll across the tile. Victoria's mother gasps, clutching her pearls. Her father stands frozen, helpless. Judge Caprio, to the gallery, calmly. Let this serve as a reminder. No one is above the law. Wealth does not grant immunity. Influence does not erase consequences. Actions have consequences. And today, justice will be seen and felt. Victoria is led away, still crying, still pleading. The courtroom watches in stunned silence. 2 days later, Victoria Ashford Sterling walks out of juvenile detention. Her posture is slumped. Her confidence gone. Her phone is silent. Social media accounts are private. The offensive posts deleted. 3 weeks later, she personally delivers a handwritten apology to Maria Gonzalez. Both women are seen crying as they embrace. Her parents enroll the family in counseling. 6 months later, Victoria returns to Judge Caprio's courtroom for her final probation check-in. She wears simple clothes, no designer labels. She approaches the bench with humility. Victoria, Your Honor, I want to thank you. That day, I thought you were ruining my life. Now I understand, you were saving it. Judge Caprio smiles warmly. Judge Caprio, how is Maria Gonzalez? Victoria, she's amazing. I help her at the hospital sometimes. I never understood what it meant to earn respect until I met her. The courtroom is quiet, moved by the transformation. Judge Caprio, you came here believing you were untouchable. You leave understanding that being accountable, being human, is far greater than wealth or status. Go forward and do good. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly, voice calm but cutting through the tension. Judge Caprio, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, do you see the pattern forming here? Victoria shifts in her seat, brushing back a stray hair, trying to maintain composure. Victoria, these are disgruntled former employees and business owners. They're clearly seeking revenge. This has nothing to do with a parking accident. The gallery murmurs. Some shake their heads. Judge Caprio, firmly. No, Mrs. Sterling. This is character evidence. You are being judged not just on one reckless act, but on how you consistently treat others. The law, and this court, take that very seriously. Victoria's face tightens, her defenses visibly cracking. Judge Caprio calls forward a middle-aged woman with a poised demeanor. Judge Caprio, please state your name and why you are here today. Witness, Ellen Hoffman, boutique owner. I'm Ellen Hoffman. I own a high-end clothing boutique in downtown Providence. I felt compelled to testify because Mrs. Sterling tried to ruin my business over $8,000 worth of merchandise. She inhales deeply, fighting emotion. She purchased clothing for a charity gala, wore every single piece, then returned everything, demanding a full refund. When I explained that worn items cannot be returned, she threatened to destroy my business, spread false accusations, and ruin me in front of her social circle. The courtroom reacts. Gasps. Heads shaking. Judge Caprio. And what did you do? Ellen. I gave her the refund. I couldn't risk losing my store. I have employees who depend on me, a co-signed loan with my mother, and a reputation to protect. A heavy silence falls. The reality of Victoria's actions weighs on the room. Judge Caprio looks directly at Victoria. Judge Caprio. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, let me be clear. This is not about a single parking garage incident. This is about a pattern, threats, intimidation, disregard for the law, and a belief that wealth erases accountability. Each of these witnesses has testified to the same truth. When faced with responsibility, you place yourself above others. Victoria opens her mouth to protest. Victoria, Your Honor, I contribute to this city. I fund programs, millions. Surely that counts for something. Judge Caprio leans back, shaking his head slightly. His voice is calm, but carries the full force of authority. Judge Caprio, charitable donations are commendable. They do not excuse criminal behavior, threats, or fleeing the scene of an accident. Wealth does not erase the law. Influence does not erase morality. Today, the law sees everyone equally. The gallery nods. A few quietly whisper, clearly inspired. Judge Caprio stands, the gavel in hand. His presence fills the courtroom. Judge Caprio, I have considered the evidence, the testimony, and your conduct. Mrs. Ashford Sterling, the choices you have made, both before and during this incident, show a disregard for the safety, dignity, and humanity of others. You cannot be shielded by your wealth, nor can your privilege hide your responsibility. Victoria leans forward, desperate. Victoria, please, Your Honor. I will do anything. I just want to. Judge Caprio raises a hand. Judge Caprio. No. This court will do its duty. You will serve time in juvenile detention, complete community service, and pay full restitution. You will personally apologize to the injured party. And most importantly, you will learn that actions have consequences. The courtroom gasps. Even Victoria's lawyer sits in stunned silence. Judge Caprio lowers his voice, speaking so the entire room feels every word. Let this be a lesson. Respect is earned, accountability is required, and no person, regardless of wealth or status, is above the law. Mrs. Sterling, it's not too late to become someone better. Learn from this. Change. And carry that lesson forward. Victoria buries her face in her hands. Tears break through her composure. The gallery sits in awe. Some nod. Some whisper words of respect for the judge's fairness. The gallery is completely silent. Victoria Ashford Sterling's hands shake. Her composure is shattered. Judge Caprio leans forward, his voice ice cold, deliberate, and unyielding. Judge Caprio, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, you came into my courtroom today believing that your wealth made you untouchable. You laughed at these proceedings. You tried to buy your way out of responsibility. You insulted an injured woman who dedicates her life to caring for the dying. You threatened working people whose only crime was doing their jobs with integrity. And through it all, you've shown absolutely no remorse, no empathy, and no understanding of why you are here. Victoria opens her mouth to speak. Judge Caprio raises a hand. Judge Caprio, continuing. I'm not finished. For the past hour, I've listened to you dismiss everyone around you as beneath your consideration. The nurse you injured, The security guard you threatened, the valet who parks your car, the woman who cleaned your home, the small business owner whose livelihood you held hostage. In your world, these people are invisible unless they inconvenience you. Then they become obstacles to be removed with money, threats, or your husband's name. The courtroom gasps. Heads nod. A few witnesses quietly murmur in agreement. Judge Caprio pauses, letting the weight of his words settle like snow. Judge Caprio. Here, Mrs. Ashford Sterling, your money means nothing. Your last name means nothing. Your husband's donations mean nothing. What matters is the law, and you broke it. What matters is human decency, and you have shown none. Victoria's lips tremble. Her defiance has completely evaporated. Judge Caprio, continuing. You are not going to write a check and walk away. You are not going to have your lawyer make this disappear. You are going to face real consequences, perhaps for the first time in your privileged life. And those consequences will teach you something your wealth has allowed you to avoid learning. Actions have consequences. Other people matter. And service is not something you buy at a gala. It's something you do with your own two hands. Judge Caprio picks up a folder and begins reading. Judge Caprio. For leaving the scene of an accident and failing to render aid, I am ordering $15,000 to be paid directly to Maria Gonzalez for her medical expenses, lost wages, and the damage to her vehicle. Victoria exhales as if relieved. A faint glimmer of hope flashes in her eyes. Victoria. Just money. That's manageable. Judge Caprio looks at her sharply. Judge Caprio. Your driving privileges are suspended for 18 months, effective immediately. You will not operate any vehicle during this period. Victoria's eyes widen in shock. Victoria. 18 months. How am I supposed to? Judge Caprio. Public transportation, Mrs. Ashford Sterling. The same buses and trains used by the invisible people you have spent your life overlooking. You're about to become very familiar with how the other 99% lives. Judge Caprio leans forward, voice measured but powerful. Judge Caprio. In addition, you will complete 50 hours of community service, assisting those you have spent your life ignoring. You will personally apologize to Maria Gonzalez, and you will attend a course on ethics, accountability, and civic responsibility. The camera pans across the courtroom. Victoria's face is pale, her diamond jewelry dim under the overhead lights. The public watches in awe. Her privilege means nothing here. Justice has won. Victoria Ashford Sterling's story reminds us, no one is above the law. Privilege and wealth do not protect you from consequences. Character, humility, and accountability are what truly define a person. If this story inspired you, hit subscribe and share it. Comment below if you believe justice should always be blind. And let's hold the powerful accountable together. Justice is equal. Character matters.